Good morning, I'm Tyler Cower.
And I'm Taylor Larkin. Welcome to the E2 News.
This is the news for the week of Tuesday, January 20th to Friday, January 23rd.
Here is this week's lunch menu.
Tuesday, Mexican straw hat choice chicken patty.
Wednesday, chicken and noodles choice steak fingers.
Thursday, French toast choice turkey club.
Friday, enchilada choice chicken nuggets.
The Explorer bookstore will be open this Wednesday during lunch.
And remember, every book costs just $1.50 each.
Our boys basketball team starts their season tonight with a game at Erskine Elementary at 4:30.
They also have a home game here at Eastside on Thursday against St. Mary's. Good luck, boys.
There will be a skating party this Thursday at the Anderson Roll Arena from 6 to 8.
Remember to have an adult come in to sign you in and back no later than 8 p.m. to pick you up.
It's time to hear the word of the week.
This week's word is swiftly.
Swiftly means quickly or rapidly.
For example, Mrs. Hopper ran around the track. Oh, Mrs. Hopper ran swiftly around the track.
Remember to try to use the word of the week when you are talking or writing this week.
And now let's go to Miss Manners for an important reminder about great ways to show excellent manners.
Hello, I'm Miss Manners. Did you know that it is important to say please and thank you every chance you get? Please take every opportunity to say these magic words to the adults and other students who help you each day. They will appreciate it and you will feel great about saying please and thank you.
Thank you, Miss Manners, for that important reminder.
Our cookie fundraiser continues this week until Friday. Remember to look at the monitors to see the great prizes you can receive for orders you sell.
Remember, if you sell 15 items, you get to ride in the chicken limo to McDonald's.
So sell those cookies.
And now it's time for the
Shout out of the week.
Mrs. Shaw would like to give a shout out to third graders Kara Maya Hawes and Christopher Weir for passing their 12s in multiplication. Way to go!
Mrs. Fulton would like to give a shout out to Liza Reese for clipping off the chart for great behavior. Way to go, Liza. Keep it up. Or keep up the
Mrs. Worley would like to give a shout out to second grader Sean Stewart for being extra helpful to Mrs. Miller while helping other students. Great job, Sean. You're awesome.
And now it's time for Mrs. Womack to do the fish cast drawing for books.
Good morning, Eastside Explorers, and once again it's time for our fish cast drawing for books. Remember, if your name gets called, come on down to the office and get a certificate that you can use for a free book on Wednesday at the Explorer bookstore. Our first grader for today, from Mrs. Skelding's class, David Juarez. From Mrs. Shuck's class, Riley Hinkle. From Mrs. Adams' class, Chip Kimball. And our last first grader for this week is from Mrs. Adams' class again, and it is Kamarie Ferrier. From Mrs. Poor's class comes our second grader, and it is Dallas Rick. No, that's Mrs. Bennett's class. Miss Bennett's class, Dallas Rick. Got it from Mrs. Poor. From Mrs. Hines' class, Joshua Jones. From Mrs. Miller's class, Ashton Powell, I believe. From Ms. Bennett's class, Zyler Schruck. Come on down and get a certificate. Our first third grader is from Mrs. Shaw's class, Julian Tyler. From Mrs. Sanders' class, Mackenzie Castaneda. From Mrs. Stanley's class, Naya Cruz. And our last third grader for this week is from Mrs. It says Sanders, but I think you might be in Mrs. Shaw's class. You know whose class you're in. Our last third grader for this week is Cheyenne Watson. Come on down and get her certificate. Our first fourth grader is from Mrs. Maidlow's class, and it is Evan Henry. From Mrs. Biggis's class, Kanaja McCullough. From Mrs. Payton's class, Megan Phillips. Our last fourth grader for this week is from Mrs. Reisinger's class, and it's Michael Robinson. Come on down and get a certificate. Our first fifth grader from Mr. Lambert's class, Carson Huckabee. From Miss Plummer's class, Tris Turner. From Mr. Lambert's class, Tristiana. And our last fifth grader for this week is from Mrs. Fulton's class, and it is Kennedy Rayford. Come on down and get a certificate. And once again, Eastside Explorers, thanks for being proud, positive, and productive.
Have a great week.